Hey guys, this is the Tech Transit Association. This is a special video. My name is Alexei Sanoff. Today we're going to be talking about the short list of proposals that we believe should be built immediately. This video is intended as the 500 subscriber special, so thanks so much guys for getting us to this milestone. Sorry it's still a little bit late, but we are but humble high schoolers with many tests. Today, we will be unveiling the official Tech Transit Association shortlist plan for subway action in the immediate and middle futures. This includes several projects. First of all, CBTC installation is a prerequisite to anything else, as it allows significantly improved capacity over all lines. Other similar sorts of system-wide changes include a shift towards de-interlining, as well as the steady integration of regional rail systems into our commuter rail network. An announcement was just made about regional rail integration, so that part, at least, may happen quite quickly. Covering these many changes requires lots of effort and a dedicated time, and so we may do a separate video to cover those if time permits. Once again, poor high schoolers. This video will stick to the fun part, subway expansions. Our plan includes a number of subway expansions that we believe should be built to maximize transit access in the city. They range from low-hanging fruit branches to new trunk trackage to add core capacity. Of course, there are so many important expansion projects, but we will feature what we think are the most important. Without further ado, and in no particular order, let's get into it. Number 1, the 7-train expansion project. Naturally, the first bullet point on this list is our organization's founding mandate, the 7 expansion. This plan would extend the 7 into more of Eastern Queens in order to help the many residents who currently have to drive or transfer at the congested Flushing Main Street terminal. One branch would head north into College Point before terminating with tail tracks pointing towards Bayside, while the other would split south and head toward the Long Island Expressway corridor. From there, the track would be built with bell mouths, such that future service from Queens Boulevard along the LIE could take over the trackways, and it would continue along the Long Island Expressway, eastwards a few stops to give more coverage to central Eastern Queens. Finally, in order to accommodate all the natural increase in traffic on what is already a very, very busy line, the Port Washington branch of the Long Island Railroad would be converted into a regional rail service with fare gates and fast service. The Great Neck terminating track could also be extended to increase terminating efficiency, since past that point the line is single-tracked. The terminating track could also just be extended all the way, and it could be double-tracked, but that would be rather expensive and difficult for political reasons. So that's a whole separate deal. 2 infill stations would be built, one in Corona for more 7-train relief, and one at Broadway for Queens Boulevard transfers. In addition to serving the Northern Boulevard corridor, this would allow for excess traffic on the 7 to be siphoned off by a de facto express service with an integrated fare structure. For more information, see the article we wrote about it on Van Schnuckenragen's blog, www.vanschnuckenragen.com. Number 2, QueensLink. Another low-hanging fruit project. This one involves extending a Queens Boulevard line local service, most likely the M train, by the old Rockaway Beach branch right-of-way to the Rockaways, in the process creating a vital north-south link across Queens while also increasing service frequency in the Rockaways. Linking northern and southern Queens would dramatically change many interborough commutes. This link would revolutionize cross-borough transport, making it far easier for people with jobs or friends in northern Queens to get there from homes in southern Queens and vice versa. And this would allow the replacement of the Rockaway shuttle, making commutes easier for those along the line who would not have to wait 20 minutes for a train. Finally, the freed up terminal space would allow the extension of the G back to 71st Avenue, which dramatically increases the crosstown line's ability to function as a cross-borough connector, since it currently just ends rather suddenly in Long Island City with a long convoluted transfer to the E and M and a slightly less convoluted 7-train transfer. This extension would allow it to transfer to more Queens Boulevard line services, plus the new Port Washington Regional Rail. Number 3, the Utica Avenue line. This idea is pretty simple. Utica Avenue is a very major transport corridor and is quite dense. It both deserves and needs a line, and it has waited since 1913 for one. Older proposals were defeated by everything from residents of Stuyvesant Avenue who didn't want the construction to the budget crises caused by the Second World War. In addition to standard political and economic issues, the high water table in the second half of the route means that an elevated extension is required. Building a new elevated route will require political will, but this corridor is critically important to invest in and would benefit from a replacement for the B46 bus, which is, after all, only a bus, and so slower, more prone to delays, and possessed of less capacity. At least 38,000 people ride that bus per day, so there would be real ridership in the line from the start. The actual line itself would just branch off the IRT line after Utica Avenue station and turn south, most likely with the extension of a 4-5 train, presumably in conjunction with a Rogers Junction deinterlining. Number 4, the E to Southeast Queens. This idea is also rather simple, yet possessed of a notable history. Originally proposed as part of the 1968 Program for Action before being scrapped due to the 70s budget crisis, this plan involves the partial or total conversion of the LARR Atlantic branch into an extension of the E train via Jamaica Parsons Archer. Much of the tunneling has already been done, so much of the work would be building stations. This would provide coverage through a wide swath of Southeast Queens, as the name suggests. There is not much else to say besides that it is a good idea and it would serve some good locations like York College, as well as some staple residential territory, some of which could be upzoned to finance the extension. Andrew Lynch, also known as Van Schnuckenwagen, has an excellent article series on this blog about this proposal. Number 5, LaGuardia extension. This idea has been a pet project of mine ever since I read that very same Andrew Lynch's highly informative article on it. Our video about this topic goes into it, but essentially this proposal is better than the air train that was suggested by the former governor because it allows system-wide improvements, especially along the long bemoaned 4th Avenue local corridor. Essentially, by extending the Astoria line to the airport and building a new yard and a Con Ed yard along the route, one could de-interline Broadway service by sending all local service via 60th Street to the airport and all express service via 63rd to 2nd Avenue and Queens Boulevard. This then allows improved service across all the Broadway lines. And even though the sharp curve at City Hall limits service south there to around 21 trains per hour, this is easy to work around. The excess trains per hour could be used to create an airport express train with luggage racks terminating at City Hall lower. And the Nassau connection to the Montague Tunnel could also be reactivated in order to further counter the trains per hour deficit, or 2nd Avenue trains could be hooked in at a later date to the same effect. All this extra capacity benefits South Brooklyn local riders and would also make a future extension to Staten Island easier. Finally, since the Montague tubes are used for a lot of transfers in downtown Brooklyn between BMT and IND services, this would help make such transfers more viable, since the most important aspect of a transfer train is that it runs pretty frequently. Meanwhile, Queens Boulevard line still has a Broadway service, and it now has a better service balance between 53rd and 63rd Streets. De-interlining would thus be easier on that line as well. This proposal is just a great value all around. These numerous secondary benefits are not even factoring in the great utility of having a subway line between the newly renovated airport and the city center. Number 6, the Interborough Express. The plan closest to fruition, this idea is a complicated one revolving around restoring passenger service to the LARR Bay Ridge branch, which currently sees only freight service. This artery connects many different subway lines and neighborhoods together. The MTA released a survey about how to do this a little while ago, and the plan recommended 3 possible service types: regional rail, light rail, or bus rapid transit. I personally believe that discounting the subway option is simply daft, as there is a ready-made terminal at Jackson Heights Roosevelt Avenue from the old IND Winfield spur that could be used. But whatever. Even if the MTA alternatives are used instead, the rail service is far and away the best, as it is possessed of the most possible capacity with its large cars, and it can use existing right-of-way entirely, with new platforms added and double tracking restored in some areas. Light rail service, while lacking capacity compared to the heavy rail and without any system connectivity, would still be useful and might be able to use the terminal as well. Bus, not a great option. But whichever way it ultimately comes about, this is unequivocally a good idea for using existing capacity to the maximum and providing more options for cross-connecting the system to enable trips to places besides Manhattan, much like the QueensLink connects northern and southern regions of Long Island. Finally, number 7, the full 2nd Avenue subway. Yeah, you all know it was going to come to this. The poster child of all New York City expansion projects and their inevitable delays, the SAS would run a subway line along the east side to relieve the perpetually overcrowded Lexington Avenue line. As currently under construction, this line would serve as a 2-track branch of the Broadway line, which would then be extended into a 2-track quasi-trunk with interlining. This, however, wastes the value in building a new trunk, which is the ability to boost overall system capacity by fixing bottlenecks. So, under our plan, the line would be built with 2 tracks and 2 trackways, making it so that once more money is available to build more branches, we would have the ability to rapidly reactivate the trackways and run more service. Until then, the line would extend from 125th Street in Manhattan with an interchange to the 8th Avenue line, under 125th Street to 2nd Avenue, and then down 2nd Avenue with a connection to the 63rd Street tunnel, all the way to Houston Street, where the line would steer under Christie Street. A cross-platform transfer would be made to the IND 6th Avenue Express tracks, and then the Second Avenue trains would continue under Park Row with a stop at Chatham Square before turning again and connecting to the Center Street subway outer trackways. Switches would be enabled to guide the JZ trains into the inner terminating tracks, while the Second Avenue trains would take over the Broad Street tracks and continue over them into Brooklyn. The connection to the Montague Street tunnel enabling Brooklyn service and the tail tracks past Broad Street could be removed to build a ramp to a second tunnel to remove interlining. Connections would be built to the Fulton Street line at Court Street, allowing either Montague trains or trains from the new tunnel onto the local tracks and de-interlining Fulton. Ideally, the Montague connection would be built first and then used for non-revenue service only once the second tunnel was built. This plan would enable the Second Avenue subway to meaningfully increase capacity in the system by fixing the Fulton Street bottleneck, and since there are several connections to other lines, several service patterns are possible. Potential extensions that could be built after this include a line to Williamsburg, a la the I&D South 4th Street line, the Alphabet City Spur, a new tunnel to Queens and the Queens Boulevard bypass, or any number of Bronx extensions, including via Lafayette Avenue, via Boston Road, via 3rd Avenue. The Second Avenue subway would form a new backbone to the system, providing more capacity all over. Several service patterns are possible, but our map just shows one. Honorable mention, the Queens Boulevard Super Express. I wanted to include the Queens Boulevard Super Express line in this, but this line, which would essentially use existing LARR trackways to build functionally another 2 express tracks on the Queens Boulevard line to enable more service, would be rather expensive, and communications-based train control, CBTC signaling, would perform a similar role, so we recommended the extension be built at a later date instead. The shortlist plan is intended as an indexing of the most relevant and important expansions to be built. If you guys think other proposals are very important, feel free to add a comment about it in the comment section and we will consider it. Thank you for listening, and until next time, this is the Tech Transit Association, and remember, no way with Queensway.